Oh no, before this will be in the bloopers, I'm sure. Now, sauerkraut, is that your last name?
Oh no, I need to know it's not.
What is it? Say
It's
it.
Rubil, Jonatan, or Rubil Jonatan.
Rubil
So,
Jonathan.
mhm.
Okay, Rubil Jonathan. Why have you got that then?
Because of my some privacy, because of my.
Oh, shoot. So I shouldn't say that. I should say sauerkraut.
No,
What
you
do you,
can say it. You can say it. Because this is gonna be on my Heal, Recover, and Rise, and on Instagram we're gonna connect it all, so it's okay.
okay, so I can say Irma, Rubil, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Cool. Lucky. All right, let's go. It's taping anyway. All right, welcome guys. I just wanted to introduce everyone to this amazing lady. We've only met recently and I love her already. She's a ball of wisdom and knowledge, and a lot of my info and what I've been sharing has also come from this beautiful source. Her name is Irma Rubil Jonathan. She's actually a therapist. She's worked with trauma patients, with children, adults, not just females. We're talking about men who have who are caught up in the past, in trauma. She's got 15 years of experience, worked in forensic settings, and now is in the private sector. She also works one-on-one with people. She also does group training and also works within group settings. So everybody, big welcome to Irma, and thanks a lot for joining me, and looking forward to this talk.
Hi, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Now, Miss Irma, let me start. So I've basically been a parent for the last 20 years, even though I was a parent at a very young age, as you were. I really understood the impact I would have on my child. For some reason, I took that on board. I really honored that. And, I chose to grow and actually empower myself and better myself so that I can be a really good reflection and representation of what my daughter should be like, just at least as a guidance. Now, however, I see when I look outside that if I say to a lot of people, if I ask them, so, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I'm just a mum. And they basically don't value it, and they don't see the potential and they actually limit themselves by not honoring what a mum can do and be for that child and the next generation. Why do you think that is? Why do so many people see being a mum or a parent in such a low light, not to the point where I see it?
I think it has to do with values, because as you know how society is progressing, and we all need to be independent, having a career, and kind of this whole idea what we do at home as parents is not taking that seriously. And obviously when you have a career, it's something that's measurable: how much money you're making, how successful you are, how big is your property, how many cars you have. Obviously people value things more, or better, if they can see how much you have something. So, and when you're at home and you're mother and you're taking care of your kids, and obviously that is difficult to measure, and it's not seen as something that important. So our value at home in our family, you don't see it so well as how big your property.
Absolutely.
So, and kind of there's a huge problem. So when you look at what we're doing, it's you are actually raising future leaders. So depending how good job you do, you're gonna have a good man and a woman one day. So it's kind of, I'm just a mom. I actually like that. I never thought of it in that way. So I love what you're doing, and thank you for normalizing this idea that being a mom is kind of something great. so we can make change.
Absolutely. Thanks, Irma. And I want to know that you're absolutely right. And it's, a lot of the times it's not coming from others, it's actually coming from ourselves. We're not valuing ourselves as being an important part of this society, and whereas you're absolutely right. When we get value out of getting paid or getting recognitions, rewards, awards, then we think that, oh, okay, we are doing something, amazing for this universe. We are, making an impact on the world, but we're not realizing the biggest impact we can make is how we're raising our future generation. And like you said, we want to create leaders, conscious leaders as well. So when it comes to parenting, I know that I've had a massive, massive journey within my own parenting, yeah. And this spectrum,
most of us were young parents.
I love it, because people think that when someone is speaking about parenting, oh, they have it down pat. They've always been amazing parents. They've never made mistakes. They've never made bad choices. And that's what I wanted to talk about, the parenting spectrum, that absolutely not. I started off with, a very different mindset. I was limited in the way I parented. I basically parented it out of more fear and lack and, worry. And then I slowly started growing. However, my question to you is there any way of determining what type of parent you are? Because it took me a while to understand what my parenting style is, where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are. And so if there is something that sort of can guide us earlier on, then I think we can actually, work better and also work faster towards authentic parenting.
Okay, so there are 4 types of parenting styles. But before I go there, I want to say one thing, and that is that even though sometimes when we, especially when we start, we all actually anxious and we all trying to do our best. Yes. So like you, I was a young parent, and I started from a point of view, I know what I'm not supposed to do. Okay, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So, and obviously because I was studying, for my psychology degree, I read lots of books, and, obviously I knew then about different parenting styles. So I read all the bullet points, and I was like, yes, this is what I want to do, but you don't know really how to deliver that. Okay. And then I would, coming from this fear, okay, then you want to do it properly. So you follow the bullet points. But you're not noticing certain things, you don't know how to read between the lines because you focus on not making mistake. And obviously I was making a mistake. Okay. So, but I'll explain more to examples, and I think probably you have a bunch of them as well. So as I said, 4 of them. So first one is authoritative. Easier name for it is democratic. Second one is authoritarian or disciplinarian. Third one is permissive or indulgent, and the last one is neglectful and uninvolved. So, and what is interesting when we're talking about these 4 different parenting styles, we always discuss 2 things. It's how much demand us as parents put on our children, and that means rules and regulations, boundaries and some norms inside of our home. So what is acceptable, what is not, and what type of behavior we will tolerate, and which ones we will not, and comes the punishment or some kind of, in some way we need to regulate their children's behavior, okay? And we demand certain level of maturity from kids, obviously, depending on their age. And the second thing you're looking at is responsiveness. So how much we respond to our children's needs, psychological, emotional, physical. So in other words, how much support we give them. So it's easy to demand something, but then you leave your child to struggle. No, you actually need to help your kid actually to figure out how to do things, how to go about it. So where do you want to start? Do you want to start with democratic one, or you want to start with the other ones?
Now, is there a one style that's the best, or is it a combination of a few? Is it one that we need to completely ignore? We don't want any part of that style? Or is what I call authentic parenting, which is whole parenting, a bit of everything?
Okay, so probably the worst one, and the one to definitely avoid, is the last one, neglectful one and uninvolved, because that particular one is saying that us as parents, we don't have demands, so we have no expectations of our children. They don't know what we need, what we don't need, what is good for them, what is bad for them. They are just left by themselves. They are just existing like a plant, and we kind of don't give any support. We're not in any way neither warm, responsive. There is no affection, nothing.
Almost
It's
like
just
a numbness. Is it almost like a numbness? Like
almost like that, yes.
What's
So obviously children that grow up in that type of environment, because they are not properly socialized, the first thing they learn about themselves is nobody cares about me, nobody loves me. So even this I'm not good enough does not exist, because it doesn't occur to them. So it's more like I have no value. And kind of when you go out, obviously these first experiences that they have within family, it will affect how they see the world. So when they go out and they want to make friends, they're not going to be so open to making friendships. They will struggle with trust. And obviously kids like this will kind of, there are high chances of them obviously developing certain mental health problems like depression and anxiety, which is normal. And then obviously if you cannot help yourself, if you have those horrendous emotions of hopelessness and helplessness, naturally you want to tone them down. And lots of people actually then go in substance abuse. So it gets more complicated. But when it comes to which one is really good, not kind of, some people like to say the best, okay, but it's kind of because things in how we rear our children, in which way we communicate, it actually a lot depends on our culture.
Yes.
And in certain cultures, being more emotionally open and direct, it can be perceived in other culture a bit too aggressive. So for example, the way I talk, both of us are talking with hands. In some cultures that would be like, okay, this person is a bit, over the top. It's it's maybe a bit aggressive. So, and my child, she did find, Croatia, when she came to Croatia and stayed for a little bit longer, she was like, oh my dear, you Croatian people are so angry people. Even when you're happy and talk, you don't know how to talk normal. You can't put your hands down, and you constantly, your voice is going up and down. And she's like, it's exhausting. Okay, so she prefers more British culture, or English culture, where everybody's polite. You ask a question and then people wait for you to answer. In Croatia, they ask a question and you're just about to finish and they ask you another 2 or 3, and then it was like, so rude. Okay, so in this culture, so when we talk about authoritative parenting or democratic parenting, where kind of demandingness from a parent is high and responsiveness is high, which means you as a parent, you're very warm, you're very affectionate, but you have clear set rules. You have high expectations, but you support your child all the way. You value and encourage independence, but there's certain rules the child needs to follow, because boundaries are important, and they're in place to protect you, you as a kid, and then everybody around. Okay, and you're teaching your child consequential thinking, which means if you do this or if you don't do that, this is what's going to happen. So can you live with those consequences? Absolutely. Okay, so in another way.
That's a really good point, because I don't want people to think that it's only about positive parenting. We're not discussing positive parenting, because in this model, we have limitations, we have boundaries, we say no. Mm-hmm. Being an involved parent, being a parent that is in tune with their kids, doesn't mean you always say yes, doesn't mean you're always clapping and promoting them.
Oh no, if you do that, you're raising a narcissist. You need to put the boundaries.
So this is what people have to understand. It's not always about just clapping for them. It's actually saying, I'm empowering you with this. I am completely involved with you. And however, if you do this, this is pretty much the outcome. And I am giving you that power to understand that this will happen. So make your choice, understanding, you know, and I think that's what people have to understand, because a lot of people think that parenting positively is just about promoting your kid, endorsing your kid, allowing your kid. But, you know, a lot of the lessons we have learned is from actually times where we have felt discomfort, where we have felt like, oh, I don't like this feeling, I've made a mistake, I've suffered the consequence, or I've dealt with the consequence. And that is actually part of that first model. It's not just all sweet and, you know, light.
Exactly, because lots of people think that positive parenting is related to this yes thing, you know, kind of always saying yes and being friends with your child, and you know, kind of you're scared for your child to be upset. And you know, there's this idea last couple of years people are thinking that attachment style parenting, or you know, where you give lots of love and support, is actually about yes to this, yes to that, and giving freedom. No, you can't give a freedom to 4-year-old and 7-year-old, and you can't let them make all their decisions, because you let them, you know, think that the whole world, everything is, you know, about them, and that's not the case. So you actually,
and I feel like if you are going to give them that decision of, okay, free will, they're only having free will because they don't understand the consequences on the other side.
yeah,
That's why you're
exactly.
only limiting them, because you're not saying, okay, this is the whole picture, now you decide. They're just saying, you go ahead and do what you want, but they're not saying, with that comes this. And this is where people get confused. It's not about, yeah, let them do what they want. Okay, let them do what they want also means this is the consequence. So are you okay with that? And what 4-year-old is going to totally get that? No, they're not.
No. So obviously, you know, kind of, it's okay to be friends with your kids, but obviously when they're 20, when they're older, you know, you don't do that when they're so young, when they don't understand what they're doing and what are the consequences. So, and this, what we're discussing now, we kind of going a little bit into permissive or indulgent parenting style, where we're raising with love, and, you know, we are scared to say no because we think that our children will get damaged in some way, because you know, we putting boundaries. And actually research is showing for years now that if you don't put boundaries, there is no safety. And all of us, you know, adults and children, we're looking for safety in relationships.
Absolutely.
Why they work, why support works, is because there's safety. Yeah, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, even in this, like what you were talking about, I feel like a lot of parents also say yes, 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 because they have some guilt. Guilt also comes into why parents are actually so easy with setting boundaries and stuff, because I feel like somewhere they think they're doing something wrong in parenting. Okay, how do I make up for it? I'll say yes to whatever they want.
Yeah, especially if you work the whole day, you don't see them whole week, and then you see them weekend, and then you don't want to say no over the weekend, so let them do whatever they want because I'm absent. But that's not love. You're actually hurting your child.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's really not working out. So you want your child to understand boundaries, you know, that they have, so they can understand other people's boundaries. So when they go out and something is happening they don't like, so they can say, okay, I don't like this. Please don't do this. Why? Because, so you practically, you're teaching your children to be assertive, to say, you know, I'm sorry, this is not nice. I don't want to play this way, and don't talk to me in this way, please. You know, I'm not talking to you. Okay, so you're teaching your child to respect themselves, to respect others. And you can't start with that when they're 14 or 19. You actually need to start, you know, when they're really young.
Absolutely. And that is my point, is that unless you are living the teaching, then how are they going to learn? Because the best way for them to learn is by watching you. And also they understand my mum has the right to have her own space and do her own thing. And if it's done with the right intention, which is like, okay, I'm tired, I really want to have a break, or you know what, I just want to enjoy my own company right now, then you don't have guilt. You're actually okay with going to work, coming home, quality over quantity any day. But I feel it's when you know you are not putting in, that a lot of parents have guilt of like, okay, how can I now make up for me not being involved? You know, and that's what I noticed. Like a lot of people that are well off, they have nannies, and in order to like not bother themselves, they're happy to buy them things. They're happy to, you know, send them off to places, go and do your thing, hang out with this one, because they can't be bothered. That's also another reason why people say yes to their kids, don't set boundaries. And then what I have seen that like life, when life sort of becomes full circle, those kids then later on don't have time for their parents. They couldn't be bothered as well, you know, and
Yeah,
they also have learned, I don't have boundaries. I'm happy to, I'm not going to set this with you because it wasn't set with them.
exactly. But there is another aspect as well. It kind of, there are lots of situations where, you know, they're like single parents, and obviously, you know, people are coming from, you know, different backgrounds, and sometimes you have a single mother with two kids, and you know, nobody's paying alimony, and you know, there's no extended family. She's all by herself working 3 jobs, and you know, kids are whole day alone. She comes home, she's dead tired, and you know, living in fear and anxiety. Is she going to have enough money to pay electricity bill, and you know, enough money for the bread? And weekend comes, and you know, she's just like, you know, sleeping on the sofa. She's exhausted. So obviously in that type of situation, same thing happens. So even though parents do their best sometimes with best intentions, it still doesn't work out. And you know, and life can be really cruel if we don't have enough support, and you just kind of, your kids are abandoned, are alone. So it will have consequences.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
So,
what are the other ones that we haven't covered yet?
okay, so we kind of tapped a bit in permissive and indulgent parenting style. So obviously what happens here, children, when they go out and when they want to make friends, they easily make friends because they're so cute, lovable, and open, and you know, kind of, but because there are no rules and regulations at home, they actually don't respect them outside. So they tend to push their will, you know, me, myself, and I attitude. So they make easily friends, but they struggle to keep friends, and obviously major issues in relationships, and kind of they tend to experience lots of rejection, which leads to, you know, depression and anxiety. So obviously, if we don't teach our children at home that other people have boundaries and certain boundaries exist, you know, to, you know, for your protection and other people's protection, and you know, if you don't start introducing empathy, your child cannot actually show pro-social behavior outside of the house. Okay, so that's one. And authoritarian or disciplinarian one, kind of, it has a very similar name to the first one we discussed, which is authoritative or democratic parenting styles, but they're quite different. So as we said, in authoritative or democratic parenting styles, parents are highly responsive, but they are highly demanding. In this one, you know, disciplinarian style, parents are highly demanding, but they are not responsive. And what does that mean? That means kind of, you know, there are rules and regulations, but kids actually don't get support. There's not so much warmth.
So basically, I'm the boss, you just have to do what I tell you to do.
Exactly.
And I see that in a lot of cultural families where there's a hierarchy within the household. That person doesn't even have to lead by example. That person will just speak of what is wanted from others. And I have seen, I mean, I don't know, but I have seen that sort of creates a power play within the house. So only 1% person has the power. Then it also, it actually diminishes the confidence in other people because you're not even allowing them to sort of be who they are. They also look at you and think you're a hypocrite because you're not even practicing what you're preaching. So they really resent that. You know, a lot of resentment comes. They're confused because why are you telling me this when you're not doing it? It's like, you know, when you see a adult smoking away and telling the child, please don't smoke, it's bad for your health. I know I shouldn't have started it, but you're smoking.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that child will do smoking, that it will try smoking because of what it's seen. So is that sort of where we're going with this?
Yeah, yeah, that's the direction where we're going, because these parents, they actually prefer obedience, blind obedience. So when child, obviously, when kids are smaller, you know, they don't have that much tendency, you know, to kind of go into argumentation with you and challenge you, and, you know, so kind of they're discussing it. But, you know, the older they get, obviously they're going to be asking you, okay, so do you mind, you know, if I come home a little bit later, or, you know, I would like to go out with my friends and come back 2 hours later. Answer you get is no. So when the child asks why, you get, because I said so. You know, you live under my roof. These are my rules, my way or highway. So, you know, kids are like, okay, so, you know, they are literally counting when they can leave the house, you know, and, you know, start their own life. But by the time they are ready to leave, their spirit and their identity is crushed.
Yeah.
Because there's no independence, there's no free thought, you know, there is no assertiveness, and they learn I'm not good enough. Okay.
I feel like, from my experience, that is what I've noticed here the most. That style of parenting, like
Here as well.
Wow, that is like that is like, oh my God, you've hit the nail on the head. That is, as a society, that's how parenting occurs. And I was like, wow, absolutely, you crush these kids, you're crushing dreams. You know, you're actually disempowering them. All of these kids that go through this, I won't say all, because some rebel like I did, but most of the kids, what happens is they are so suppressed that they've become very good at following and be followers, but hardly any turn out to be great leaders. Because all their courage, all their, you know, that energy, that will, that fire they had is literally on. Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. Yep.
And, you know, what is as well interesting here is that apparently, you know, so my majority of research is saying that if you're raising your kids with this authoritative or democratic parenting style, your kids will be better academically. They're going to be higher achievers. While with the other three parenting styles, not so much. Okay, so, and that varies across different cultures. So kind of that's not necessarily the case for people with Asian and, you know, Hispanic or Black communities. Okay, so because there is a bit of that disciplinarian mix. Okay, and interesting thing is, as I was mentioning before, when you start parenting and when you know what you're not supposed to do, and you don't know what you're supposed to do, and you find this rule, you know, 4 parenting styles, and you read it, as I did, and so I was like, I decided my parenting style is going to be democratic one. Okay, so, and you're supposed to support your child to develop, you know, independence. So I was applying that rule, but I treated my child like she was me. Okay.
Yes.
She has a different personality to me. So I, as a kid, I needed a push because I'm very competitive. You know, I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be a boss. I was very opinionated, and I was angry, and I was like direct and difficult. So you needed to engage with me and tell me, okay, let me guide you a little bit. And I would be like, no. And then, you know, you push me, and I'm like, yeah, this is good for me. I like it. Bring it on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a fighter. Yes. My kid is not like that. Okay. And I was like, yeah, I just need to push her a little bit, you know, outside of her shell. She needs this. And then when I was teaching her how to ride a bike, she still didn't, by now she still didn't forgive me for it, you know. So when we have now argument and I'm like, okay, maybe you should. And she's like, you remember that bike story? Do you remember? You traumatized me. And I'm like, okay, trauma therapists traumatize their child. So it's like, you know, it's our, you know, it's a joke in our house, and she loves it. So every time, you know, kind of she's seeing I'm, you know, going in certain direction she doesn't like, she's like, bike story. Okay.
Yeah, pulls you
Like,
with
exactly.
accountability.
She's like, respect the fact I'm not you. So our kids are not us. So we should not be pushing our ideas and what we think is good for them necessarily. You know, we can have obviously opinion what is good for them, but you need to pick up how your child functions.
Absolutely. And spot on. I've got 3 different kids, 3 very different personalities, extremely opposite. And I look at Aaliyah, she's a carbon copy of me. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Without awareness, this was not done with awareness and the knowledge I have today. But I did push her because I knew I was, as a child, needed pushing because I had fear. So when I knew that I overcame certain fears, I felt empowered. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with her. I'm going to push
Mm-hmm.
her, right? Luckily, because I wasn't aware at that stage, luckily
It
it
works.
worked because she was similar to me. So like I
Yeah.
said, I would get up on there and she want to try something, I'd push her down. I would literally be like, it's me or that, you know, you going down. And I thought I'm doing her a favor because I'm like, look, I know how it works for me. I know it works for me. Never thinking at 21 years of age, wow, she's not me. I just
Yeah.
automatically assumed she would get the lesson. Then I had
Mm-hmm.
Ria 5 years later, thank God, a little bit wiser. And I could honestly notice she was different, right? I knew if I pushed her to the level I pushed Aaliyah, it would break her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I actually stood back and
Mm-hmm.
I would sort of compliment her because I could see she was trying her best. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't she was resisting or fearful of something. She was trying her best, but maybe not hitting her mark. Right?
Mm-hmm.
However, me, the fact she was trying was amazing. So I was like, no, you got this because I know your intention, your output is great. So I backed off in pushing her. I thought she needs to do this in her own time, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was really important because when she was younger, she wasn't really confident in academics. Okay. So she would always sort of compare herself, and I would always be like, no, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. Look at me, look at the life, you know, choices I made. And I always used to just bring her down to, no, you are doing amazing. And now that child, so that was say grade 1, 2, 3, whatever. Now that child is in year 9, she's scoring 90s because I let her peak at her right time,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a perfect example of what you said, because yes, with my first one, I did it just my way. I was like, yep, every kid needs to do it my way because look at me, I'm a
Yeah.
leader and I'm courageous. And I thought, this is it. I've worked out, you know, how to do it. And then I've realized, wow, I parented her exactly the way I parented myself and how I grew myself. When Ria
Mm-hmm.
came along, I saw a completely different child. And thank God I was aware of that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, Rava too is having a completely different experience of me as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
but my value system has remained the same.
Mm.
So,
You
parent,
had to adjust your parenting style. Yeah.
yes, I had to take a bit from this, let go of that, adapt a
Yeah.
little bit of this, move away that. And that's what I was asking you, because I was like, okay, I really had to chop and change, tweak a little bit, make it personal. Only after I really got to see each individual child for who they were.
Yeah.
First, I had to see them for who they were. Then only could I adapt my parenting to suit and sort of guide them. It was like, I will be the support. I will tweak myself to be the support to help you
Mm.
flourish into who you really are. So
Yeah.
I took a step back. I was like, okay, you are that. I will accommodate to that.
Mm-hmm. So I would say that you definitely used quite a lot authoritative and democratic parenting style, but what really helped you is actually and you matured with time and you picked up that they're very different, and then even though you were pushing for independence and you were very supportive and there were clear boundaries, you adjusted them, and you adjusted them according to their needs. So I was a bit unlucky there because I actually didn't get that at the time. So I came with this idea and, okay, you need a push because I needed a push and there is not enough support. I'm going to support you. But when you push certain personality types more than you should, and and you're not picking up they're uncomfortable, you actually do more damage. So my kid at the time was like, okay, give me a break. Okay, you're pushing me too much, and I could see she was getting upset. But because she was not a kid like quite direct and very open and assertive, stating how she feels. She was more introverted. It took me a while to pick up there is actually some anger and resentment, not just her being avoidant. So I misread that, and being a young parent, and at the time what didn't help as well is I actually had postnatal depression. So and I was so scared not to create a depressed and weak dependent individual. And I was just like, the biggest fear I had at the time is like creating version of myself and my child in 20 years being copy of me or even somebody worse than me. So my duty is to fix it, and fix it now. I just missed the points, major points. So parent in the democratic parenting style, but hear your child, see your child.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like I look at my son, and because he's the baby of the family, obviously his eldest sister's 20, and then you got Ria's 15. He is spoilt rotten. He is like treated like the little prince, and he knows it. And because he knows this, what he does, he really has sort of, he wants you to do everything. He's very dependent. He tries to, okay, you do that for me and I want to be with you. And so then I, even looking at that, was like, okay, hold on. You have taken more than you need of our sort of, togetherness, our bond and everything. And what I've done with him is really set boundaries for him, saying, no, I want to have my own time now. Because so I didn't have to do that with the other girls because there was enough distance that it was a healthy distance. But him, because he gets rottenly spoilt by all of us, he sort of has now decided or thinks that he can sort of just be with us 24/7. He gets us however he wants us or whenever he wants us. We're there for him to serve him. And so I was like, hold on. Now I'm going to do a little bit of, backtracking and say, buddy, back off. I'm going to have my own time. So that's what I'm saying. Even if you are doing democratic parenting, aspects of the other parenting, models actually come into play, because too much of anything is bad. You've got to find the balance that fits right with the child. So my son very much, attached to us, and I don't want to create that attachment. I have seen a lot of parents that love their boys all over them, especially moms. They're like, my boy, I'm like, no thanks. I want him to have the same gap, the same distance, the same boundaries I had with my girls. I want him to be independent of me, because I don't want this at 35. I don't want my 35-year-old son going, Mom.
The way you parent, it is definitely kind of this healthy attitude, but you can't build independence if your child is constantly here with you, playing with you, he's doing everything with you. They don't have a social life. They need to have, friends, peers, okay? And, they need to practice their social skills. You teach them at home, with children of their age, okay? So otherwise, kind of, if you as parents are the only support that they have, or extended family, that's just like wrong, because you have children then interacting with adults. So for you to develop play, to develop kind of assertiveness, and kind of to learn how to communicate properly and agree and disagree on certain things, with your peer group, you actually need to start doing that at a young age. Absolutely. And it's normal to have your time.
Yes, because I feel like when they are the smallest one, they get so much that they really need a strong sense of boundary. They need to know, nope, you're not coming into my space right now. I don't want to. And because what happens is, they feel like they're allowed to be anywhere, anytime. And eventually they expect that from everybody else once they start going out into the world, and they will only appreciate it. What I've seen a lot of people is when they grow up, they love people for those people doing something for them, you know, like, okay, this one is doing for me, this one is giving me this, but it's like, do you just love a person if they say no, if they set a boundary, are you okay with that as well? And this is where I look back and think, you know, these habits are created as a child. Have you taught your child to actually honor someone with a boundary? Have you taught your child to be okay with someone saying, no, not now? Because those lessons are just as important.
Yeah, but you see, kind of children actually like boundaries. The issue is never in a child. The issue is in a parent or, you know, in adult in their life. Because actually boundaries make it clear for kids what's okay, what's not okay. But obviously you need to give an explanation. This is not okay because, I don't know, a good example would be, okay, mommy, I want to go out tonight with my friends, and you know, we are watching a movie, so and you know, it's finishing around 11, and we were thinking of, you know, staying for a little bit longer. Can you pick me up at, you know, 2 a.m.? And you know, your answer should be something like, well, I had a really tough week, I didn't sleep well, I'm so exhausted, can I pick you up tonight at 11? And then tomorrow you spend, you know, longer time with your friends because I'm feeling awful. And, you know, you know, there's, you know, I'm not so kind of, I don't have any other option. So, you know, child understands you're tired, you're not just saying no because, you know, you feel like it. So you showing understanding toward your kids' need to have a social life, but you're exhausted. Can we do it tomorrow or over the weekend, you know, stay on a sleepover, or you get me? So, you know, I have a life, you have a life, you know, and this is the thing. When we love our children, it's really not about, you know, quantity of time. It's actually about quality.
Yes.
You can be with your kids whole day, okay, and not properly talk to them, not notice them. Yeah, you kind of, you don't have really conversation, just like, yeah, autopilot, in and out, you know, information goes, you have no clue what your kid told you because you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're talking to the neighbor, you, I don't know, doing gardening, you know, or I don't know, watching Netflix or whatever, and your kid is talking and you're just like, whatever, or the phone, yes, social media. Yeah. So, you know, that's like, no, that's neglect, really.
Yes, it's
so
neglect. Absolutely.
Choose a time in the day, spend with your kid, but then have your own time, because you're not a money machine, you're not a cleaner, you know, you're not just like cook all day, you're just like, we all need our space. And as well, not only, you know, space on our own, but you as well need a, you know, space with your partner. Obviously you don't want like your kid 24/7 in your life, in your bed, in a bedroom, you know, in the kitchen, in the toilet. You just like, you know, some personal space is okay. Obviously when they're small and babies and they're really, you know, they don't understand when you leave the room, you know, kind of, because, you know, when it comes to brain development, the you know, anxieties, separation, you leave the room and they think you're gone forever. Okay, so once they learn you leave the room and you're still alive and you're gonna come back, you can have your personal space. Okay, you can be on toilet without them, and you can be in your bed with your partner without the child, you know, kind of sleeping whole night between you two. And obviously through the day you can have a coffee with your friend without your child being here, mommy, 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 mommy. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and some people think that's terrible, but you know, kind of, I think some boundaries are really healthy.
No, I definitely, because I feel like you're setting them up for an unrealistic expectation of the world, you know. I don't think it's healthy, because from what I've noticed is that they expect that sort of closeness and sort of from their partners, and it's not realistic, you know. It's you can't honor that. So definitely.
Well, there's one thing, sorry for interrupting you. One thing I want to add. If we are very controlling and if we are so involved with our child's life and we need to know everything, and you know, kind of we lead them all this time.
Yeah.
So what you do is your child is dependent on you. Okay. So once they leave the house, they either kind of, you prepare them to behave like that toward their partner and children, or you teach them that somebody else can come and take over their life and control them. And then we're all in the shock. Why is my child in such an abusive relationship? Why are they putting up with that? Why they don't leave? Well, you were part of that process. You normalize this type of behavior.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought this up. It skipped my mind. But goodness, that is such an important, you know, point you brought up, that yes, if you suppress your kids, if you control your kids, and if you sort of not allow them to be who they are and always be followers, guess what they're going to look for when they're out of the house? They're going to look for someone to dominate them, treat them how they want them, tell them what to do, suppress their own independence, and literally repeat the childhood they had, you know, as an adult. I'm so
we
glad you
all
said.
we all choose, Aisha, what we believe we deserve.
So true.
All of us.
Yeah.
So
And
teach your
where that
children
belief,
to make good choices.
and guess where that belief system stems from? It stems from our family, you know, literally
Exactly.
for the first 7
Our
years. I
parenting
mean, we're
style.
conditioned. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
I
okay, Irma,
really
so
respect what you're doing. So thank you for this. I respect, you know, your whole campaign, and I love your videos. And I so hope that, you know, people see value in this and kind of decide to join you on this journey.
oh, Irma, thank you so much. You're my greatest support system, especially once I started. Oh my God, I was like, give me more, give me more. No, I always check with Irma. I'm like, Irma, I did this, I do this. And, you know, she always gives me inspiration and ideas. So I love her. We're such a great team, and we sort of have a very similar purpose to life. And so I'm honored with all the work she does, guys. So check her out as well. Now, I want you to leave me with one or two um, most important points that for a parent who wants to become aware and change and also grow in their parenting. So, and I want everyone to know that it's never too late. It's never ever too late to sort of start this authentic parenting. It's always about becoming aware and moving forward. And so, Irma, what would be like one of the major points that you want to share with our viewers in regards to authentic parenting?
So first thing, there's no perfect parenting. There are no perfect people. We all make mistakes. We all fallible people, and there's always room for improvement. So don't beat yourself up. Okay, so kind of look in ways how you as a person can develop more and how you can support your kids better. Okay, so the second point is choices. So we all choose what we deserve. So if you want your children to kind of be better at their choices, teach them to respect themselves, to respect others. So when they go out, they'll be wiser in making their decisions. And it actually starts now, today, because we actually put groundwork, you know, it's like foundations to their, you know, identity, who they're going to be in 20 years, 30 years time. So,
Absolutely.
and it starts with, you know, us just trying to do better. There's no perfect, only better.
Absolutely. Guys, I love that advice. There's no perfect, just do better. And that is my mantra in parenting. When you know better, you do better. So I never hold on to guilt. I never look backwards. I only move forward, because I know that when I did what I did, it was from that space of understanding and knowing. So I don't judge myself. I don't hold on to anything. I don't have guilt. I literally go forward. And my whole journey in parenting has actually done that for me. It's grown me, it's matured me, it's empowered me and inspired me. And so that's why I want everyone to, you know, have this opportunity to learn all about authentic parenting, because I know it will actually improve their lives and their families' lives.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you, Irma. I loved it. Thank you.